This is for the one that is tired, frustrated. Mindset Shift is about you, the you that can be transformed and renewed. The life that Christ calls you into is a place which requires a mental shift. Welcome to your transformation. Welcome to Mindset Shift. Hi family, welcome to the Well Experience. If you're new here, this is the place of refresh. Welcome to February, and it's a pleasure to actually be here. I know I've been missing, but I've been posting though on my TikTok and YouTube shorts, so please do engage with them. But I'm back, and I am actually back with a series, and it's really about the mind. This is a place where I'm just so passionate about, and if you guys didn't know as well, I am training to be a counselor. So this is a place where I love and I can talk about for days. Why? Because I believe that our minds are so powerful. We can use it to really just transform the world. There's so many ideas, so many creative ideas that come through the mind, and imagine if we just hold them and take them and absorb them and allow God to just use these creative ideas. But the main reason actually that I also wanted to start this mental shift, like it's called, is that we will shift our mind from how we think according to the world to according to how God sees us, and think according to Christ, being Christ minded, that in our thoughts, in our words, in our heart, in our mind, our focus will be on Jesus. It will be on Christ. And so join me. I'm really excited to be here. The first episode, which is obviously this episode, and I just want to talk about God's voice over opinions and over men's voice. Paul the Apostle tells the people, renew your mind. And when I was looking at the word renewal, right, it brought up three words, which is the state of resuming something, the action of extending, or the replacement or repair of something. So Paul tells us, renew your mind. Do not be conformed to this world, but renew your mind. Renew your mind. And when I was just focusing on that word renewal, sometimes it's about replacing the ideologies of what I have heard, what has been told to me when I was young. I remember when I was, growing up in education, a lot of the voices that I was hearing was that you're not smart enough, you're not wise enough, you can't get, this education thing, or like, how comes these people are, doing well in education and look at your grades. And so growing up, I adopted the mentality that, Daniela, in education, you can't go far. You can't go far. You can go to a certain limit, but you can't go far. And so this was a doctrine that I was living by. And I saw it that in my grades and my education, even though I had the desire and passion to do well in school, it just felt like there was a cloud. There was words that were spoken over me that were moving me to not act in the way that I wanted. The desire was there, but my actions could not collide and align with these desires. And the more that I've been with Jesus, he began to explain to me, you need to replace these ideologies. You need to replace these words, because it's not the truth. It's not the truth. And so he took me through scripture, where I began to just read and began to speak over my mind, began to speak excellence over my mind, excellence over my education. Excellence over my education. The Lord, Daniel was excellent, make me excellent. Joseph was excellent, make me excellent. And so this was the state of me replacing. It was a process. And when it comes to renewal, it is a transition. So I just want to say to you today that there was a time that I was frustrated because I said, God, why is it that my mind is staying the way that it's staying? Why is my mind still in that state that it was before? But I had to allow the Lord. But in that moment, God assured me that, and He made me understand that renewal is a transition. You are transitioning. It's not one day. It is not one moment. But the more you're consistent, even to renew a passport, there is levels, there's steps that you have to go through. The other day, I did a renewal for my mother, a passport. And the process was so, it took me a whole 2 hours. I had to do some things and I was like, oh my, I thought this would take me 30 minutes, but no, this is taking me 1 hour, 2 hours. The process was long. It was draining. But at the end, to see her get what she wanted was, I guess, the best part, to see the accomplishment, to see the fruits of my labor. And so let's go back to the renewal. There is certain information that you have about you, certain information that you are living by, not because God said it, but because men were constantly speaking it over you. I don't joke about who speaks over my life, especially if they are someone that is in authority over me, such as a parent, someone that I value, or someone that has a certain level of office in the spirit. A parent has an office in the spirit. A teacher, all these people, they have a certain type of authority, whether physically or spiritually. And I began to just be so cautious with the people and the things that were being spoken over me, because I realized that someone will say, oh, but you're always losing stuff. You're always losing stuff. Which in reality, there was a point that it was, that was my reality. But when they started to say that, I was say, no. It doesn't mean that I will lose. It doesn't mean that I am going to lose things forever. It doesn't. I put an end to this. There was a time that I had to go back and just go and understand, God, what have you spoken over me? What have you spoken over me? And like I said before, it wasn't a journey that just was one day, no. It was a transition and times of frustration because I'm not seeing the process. I'm speaking these declarations over my mind and over my life, but I'm not seeing the process. But He said, continue, be consistent. The more that I was consistent, I saw the transformation. I saw the mental shift. Whose voice are you listening to? Whose voice have you taken in? Some of us value the voices of people around more than the voice of God. We value the voices of the enemy more than the voice of God, more than the voice of Scripture. What has been spoken over you? And as we run up, I just want you to just reflect. Maybe get a journal, reflect, and just begin to reflect on the words that were spoken over you from young. Go back and just understand how you think. Why do you think the way that you think? Why have you been programmed to think that there is a limit to success? Or, there was a mindset that I had that I could never become rich, like prosperity was not for me. Prosperity was not my inheritance. And so every money that I will get, I will instantly spend it. Until a day came and I was reflecting and I was like, this is strange. Every time I get money, why am I so easy to just spend it? Why is it that I just feel the need to just spend it? And the more I was reflecting, I realized, I have never actually been around people that advocate for prosperity. People around me were always advocating for limitation, stagnancy. So without me knowing, I was being influenced. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. As a man thinks, so is he. Your lifestyle is a product of how you think. Your lifestyle is a product of how you think. Like today, truth be told, I've had it's been a long day. And I genuinely didn't want to come and film. But something in me was like, no, we cannot allow this pattern to continue. That when you feel, you don't do. And so I got up and I went and I'm here now filming. And so as you reflect, I want you to go back to the word and scripture and understand what he has spoken over you. You are not a failure just because you failed an exam. I remember there was a time that I failed a course, and I just remember calling myself a failure, calling myself, what they said was true. You can't do education. What they said is true. You can't even, how? But you're not a failure just because you failed something. Go back and understand the truth, what the Lord has said over your life and over your mind. He has called you his beloved. You are no longer an orphan. For so long, I was living a life of an orphan. That was the life I was living until God said, I'm there, right? I'm your father. I'm your father. And for so long, I wasn't seeing the provision of the Lord because I was living by this orphan spirit. Welcome to episode 1 of Mental Shift, where we see the transformation of the mind and the Lord begin to transform the state of our mind. This is episode 1, God's voice versus the opinions of men. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another episode.